Welcome to Dungeons and Collaborations, a player's handbook for working on distributed teams. My name is Rolen. You can find me on Twitter at Rolen. I'm from Washington, D.C. I'm a dad, husband, Rubyist, and sometimes a level 8 wizard. Let's get things kicked off with the session 0, where we set expectations and get on the same page. What's a tabletop role-playing game? You might have heard of popular ones, such as Dungeons and Dragons and Call of Cthulhu. Is it like a tabletop board game? Sort of. Players take turn to make moves, but unlike a board game, there's no winner. Is it like an RPG video game? Sort of. You play as characters and tell amazing stories, but you're only limited by your imagination, not what's in the game. I define it as collaborative storytelling governed by a set of rules, where 3 to 6 players act as main characters in a story, and one other player acts as the game master or dungeon master who facilitates the story. They control the game, supporting characters, its terrains, and all of the challenges, such as monsters and traps. They also act as a referee and help adjudicate rules, where the goal is to create a story by using rules to help build narrative tension. Now that we know what tabletop role-playing games are, let's get started, as I walk you through my journey from 2016 to 2018. First tip, find the right game with the right people. These two things dictate the majority of my experience. One decides what I do, the other is who I do it with. This is similar to finding the right company with the right culture, which can either spell success or disaster for my career. Let's take the first half of the equation, the right game. Games are a framework of rules that help facilitate specific types of play. Scrabble lets people showcase their vocabulary, while Risk lets people demonstrate their military prowess. RPGs are similar. Some focus on simulating the world's physics, i.e. how much armor weighs or how fast a horse can run, while others are focused on storytelling, having rules that set narrative stakes. If a player attempts something, will there be consequences? The game I chose was Dungeon World, created in 2012, a small indie game that allows players to play in a high fantasy setting like Dungeons and Dragons, except without as many rules. One of the creators originally called the game Hipster Dungeons and Dragons. Both games have the same genre conventions, such as wizards and elves, but Dungeon World has less rules and gives more discretion to players. Because Dungeon World is powered by the apocalypse, meaning it's a fork of another game called Apocalypse World, giving it its signature feature, the 2d6 mechanic, where first, a player decides what they want to do. I swing my sword at the bad. Then the GM prompts a player to make a roll with 2 6-sided dice, similar to a game of Monopoly or Catan. And if the sum of the dice are between 10 and 12, the player succeeds. The GM narrates what happens. You slice the baddie, but he falls to the ground. 7 to 9, the player gets what they want, but at a cost. You slash the baddie, but he stabs you back in the shoulder. Or 2 to 6, the player fails, but the game rewards them with experience to help them level up their character. Your attack completely whips, and the baddie kicks you to the ground, and a sword releases from your hand. So the game either allows the player to succeed, or to learn from their failure. Now the other half of the equation. Via the interview process, we're looking for a group to play a niche role-playing game with. Finding the right people is hard. For example, pre-pandemic, if I wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons in the DC metro area, here are just some of the meetups I could have attended. For Dungeon World, there was no dedicated meetup in DC. So how did I follow my passion that wasn't available locally? I went to Roll20.net. It's sort of like Zoom if it had a digital playmat, I could roll dice and share documents. It also had a great feature for me to find a group that wanted to play Dungeon World at a time that worked for me. But just because I found a group, I need to find out if they were the right group for me. This starts with setting the right expectations. Just like starting a new job or project, noting what I'm getting into will help manage my happiness. And just like we did earlier, we can have this session 0 where we all get on the same page, discussing what our personal goals are and what our shared vision is. For example, are we playing a game that's like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones? Both are fantasy, but vastly different. If I go into a game thinking that we're going on an epic journey, and halfway through, my party member slits my throat, I'm not going to have a great time. We also have to be adaptable. Let's say a player says, I want to be a pirate. And the GM goes, you can't be a pirate because I want to set my game in the desert. That shuts down the conversation. Immediately starting with a hard nose shuts down people's creativity and makes them less likely to present ideas in the future. One way to approach this is to never start with no and always ask why. Getting to the root of what people want and help solving their problems instead of just saying no to misaligned tactics. GM could say, I was thinking of setting the game in the desert. Why do you want to be a pirate? I want a boat. What if your boat traveled on sand dunes instead of water? I recommend using this tip when developing features to make sure we know it is built correctly. We also need to make sure we're creating a safe environment for our fellow players, and we do this by using safety tools. One tool is to have a conversation in the session 0 establishing lines and veils. Lines are things that players don't want to engage with at all. A line you don't want crossed. For me, a big one is child harm. As a parent, it's something I just don't want to see at the table. The others is veils. These are topics that can be part of the story, but can be panned away from or faded to black. An example is physical intimacy. It's okay for us to talk about the act of kissing or saying characters are romantically involved, but I don't want to listen to people roleplay a makeout session. And sometimes things come up in play that we didn't realize bothered us. For that, there's the X card. Originally, this started out in in-person play where an index card with an X on it would sit in the middle of the table, and any player could pick it up or point to it, requesting something to be changed that made them uncomfortable. As people have migrated to online, people verbally can call for an X card or put an X in chat. I recently read a story online where someone was in the middle of play and realized they were not comfortable with spiders being in the game and put an X in chat. The GM noticed, quickly asked for a break, and he swapped out the spiders for frogs, making the other player more comfortable without changing the game that much. Now that I've talked about role-playing games, let's walk through an example of a party I found and the adventure we went on. Okay, we'll meet the party. We had our game master, who was played by John from Florida. We had Hawthorne, the cleric, who healed people, and was played by Luck from Australia. Kaibo, our thief, was played by Josh from Texas. Wisteria, our druid, who could turn into any animal, and was played by Lucy from California. And Uri, the wizard, played by yours truly from Washington, D.C. We were 5 people spread across 4 time zones and 2 continents. So the least we could do was respect each other's time zones. We played from 5 to 9 p.m. on Sunday nights, meaning that we started 7 a.m. Monday morning for Hawthorne. So if she needed a little extra time to get going, she deserves that and we could catch her up. For me, I normally had a hard stop at 9, so I could go to sleep and get ready for work the next day. But we were also 3 men and 2 women of different races and ethnicities, with our ages ranging in our 20s, 30s, and 40s. So we had to be culturally aware. In my old group, we were all 20-something dudes who had the same suits of humor and touchdowns. But when I started playing with people online I didn't know, I had to be more mindful if I made a reference to something that someone else at the table might not know and what it meant. For example, if I said a dragon looks like a Charizard, not everyone at the table knows what a Charizard looks like. So I should say, it's a red dragon, about twice the size of a human, has a long snout with wizardly wings on its back, and whose large whipping tail has a flame on the end. Now let's flip. I'll be solo role-playing, while occasionally rolling a 6-sided dice to keep things interesting. Our party has just slain a mob dragon, and have come into town to celebrate a hard-won victory. Where and how are they celebrated in town? 1, drinking in a tavern. 2, having a barbecue in a park. 3, attending a wedding reception at a castle. 4, participating in a parade. 5, throwing a gala on a rooftop. 6, having a dance party at a wizard's tower. What did the dice say? 5, throwing a gala on a rooftop. Okay, our entire party is at this event, in their most regal outfits. Kai was at the bar doing shots with the staff back behind the counter. Hawthorne is being a great diplomat, greeting all the new guests, welcoming them to this event. Uri has someone backed into a corner, talking about how he single-handedly slayed that dragon and no one else really helps, and they were just there to help be supportive. And Wisteria is turning to a beautiful eagle flying around, taking in the surroundings and seeing the view from the town from the rooftop. A dwarven man can be heard coming up the stairs. He appears in front of the adventurers, very winded. Those are a lot of steps to get to this rooftop. Greetings, adventurers. I'm Max Overflow, head of the Talents Guard. Our herbalist, Moderno Johnson, has been kidnapped by a bunch of baddies. Our Talents Guard isn't prepared for this kind of trouble, so you are our only hope. Our intel says the kidnappers have been held in the cabin in the woods, so go to the shopkeeper Ada, and she'll outfit with anything you need, then make haste to get him. The party not only accepts. Remember to use vivid language when it comes to describing a situation. The more detailed something is, the easier it is for us to have a shared vision. Similar to software development, sitting over a stack trace is better than saying it just doesn't work, or having a detailed user story is better than saying make it pop. Let's fast forward to the shop. The party enters the shop, which is fairly small. It has a counter that's straight across from them that wraps around to the adjacent walls, flanking them on both sides. On the sides of the counters are shelves with basic goods, clothes, adventuring gear, mundane equipment. However, there's one item, one weapon on the shelf directly in front of them that stands out. What weapon is that? 1, the Sword of Truth. 2, the Presence Bow. 3, the non-fungible throwing axe. 4, the Free Britney Spear. 5, the Flail Whale. 6, Chekhov's gun. 6, Chekhov's gun. I'm gonna write that down. Chekhov's gun. Behind the counter stands an older-looking elvish woman. She jumps right out of her chair. Just, well, hello there. You must be the adventurers Axel's going to send over. Anything you need is on the house. I need a new pair of hiking boots because I don't want to get my nice shoes dirty. Right away, as Ada turns around and reaching up for the top shelf, the parties notice that she's missing part of her ring finger on her left hand. And if she has hands Uri the boots, Uri can see the hand has severe scarring. She looks at Uri. Anything else you need? Those woods are very dangerous, as she looks at her left hand. It's important to repeat key details. Sometimes the audio cuts out. Sometimes people might misunderstood it the first time. Even if the listener does hear everything, it re-emphasizes the point, distinguishing it from minor details. Nope, I'm fine. Okay. Hoffman walks up to the counter and says, let me help you reduce some of the scarring on your hand. I can heal it so there will be less pain, but I won't be able to bring your finger back. Thank you for offering, but I'm fine as I am. This is just a nice reminder of all the fun I had adventuring. You're an adventurer? Do you know anything about the woods? I do indeed. Those woods hide many dangerous things. Some hide in the trees, some in the bushes, so always be on the lookout. Thank you. I'll keep a lookout for things hiding in the trees and bushes. Active listening is a technique where the listener focuses on what and how the speaker says something, then paraphrases it in their own words. I found this especially useful in both software development and role-playing because it acts as a checksum to make sure everyone is on the same page. Kaibo sees Chekhov's gun on the wall. It's a simple, smooth pistol that always has a feel of familiarity. Ah, you like the look of that, huh? I got it my last adventure. It's yours if you want. Anything I can do to help get our herbalist back. Thank you. Okay, our party keeps on walking. They've left the shop. They're making their way to the cabin. But now they have to make camp. The party's asleep, and Uri's on watch. Uri, what do you do? I just slew a dragon, so I can handle a simple rescue mission. So I'm going to sneak out and see the herbalist Moderno Johnson all by myself. On your way to the herbalist, you see 2 baddies on patrol. What do? I blast them with fireball. Awesome, make a roll. 11, success. They turn to ash. What do you do now? I move in closer to the herbalist. You arrive at the entrance where Moderno is being held, and you see two baddies guarding the entrance. What do? I cast magic missile on one. Partial success. You take him out, but the other baddie knocks the wand out of your hand. Well, I punk the other one. Success. They're both taken out. What do? I burst into the room and scream, Uri's here to save you. Now that series of events might be really cool for Uri, but the other three players were disengaged and were most likely checking Twitter or on their phones. It'll be really hard to pull them back in. Similar to what we have in tech, don't be a rock star, RPGs have don't hog the spotlight. As you see Uri's here, you see and smell a dark gas and start to feel a bit lightheaded. What do? I hold my breath and cover my mouth in my jacket. Failure. You pass out. Let's check back in with the rest of the group. The party wakes up to the sound of an explosion and a flash of light from afar, as if someone gets a fireball. Kaivo says under his breath, Hurry. Hawthorne goes, the shopkeeper said that baddies could be hiding anywhere. Wisteria, can you scout ahead and see what's going on? That's a great idea. I'll turn into a bird and keep a low profile. Wisteria flies around and sees two baddie scouts hiding. What was up with that wizard rushing in? What an idiot. Doesn't he know that anyone can be hiding in the trees and the bushes? I know, right? Glad we sent someone to the boss to say the wizard was coming. I return and I tell the group. Kago, what do? I sneak over and pull out Chekhov's gun and take out one scout, then the other. 12, success. You take them both out. Hawthorne, what do? I go over to one of the corpses and cast Speak with the Dead. This allows me to ask a corpse 3 questions and they must answer truthfully. Partial success. Hawthorne can cast it, but won't be able to cast it again for the rest of the session. Hawthorne says, first question, where's Uri? The boss probably got him. Second question, who's your boss? He's a mind flayer. Last question, how do we defeat him? He's afraid of spiders? With this information, the party quickly approaches the cabin. What do y'all do now? I turn to a spider and I sneak into the cabin. In the cabin, you see Uri passed out. Next to him, you see Moderno Johnson. But hovering over both their bodies is the mind flayer, who is ranting on how he will mind control the herbalist, convincing everyone in town that medicine is bad for them. Wisteria, what do? I jump on him and say, boom! He begins to scream. Kaiba, what do? Hearing him scream, I sneak into their room, I pull out Chekhov's gun, and bang! Hawthorne, what do? I come right after Kaivo and heal Uri and Madrino Johnson. Remember to play off each other's work. Like in software development, everyone has a different set of skills, and they don't have all the skills, and so it's best to work together. Moderno says, I was doing research in the woods where the Myflayer and his goons got me. However, before that, I came across these stones of far speech, which allows me to communicate with each of you no matter the distance. Take them as a gift for rescuing me. That concludes our adventure. And after the end of the session, we usually ask 3 questions, and for each time we say yes, we get a point of experience. Did we loot an emerald treasure? Yes, Moderno gave us the stones of far speech. Did we overcome a notable enemy or monster? Yes, we defeated the Mind Flayer. And did we learn something new about the world? Yeah, we learned a ton, such as finding the right group of people, being empathetic, and playing off each other's work to enhance our remote experience. When I originally gave this talk 4 years ago, our party was in the middle of our campaign at the height of our fun. However, our campaign has been over for 3 years, and I wanted to do a tabletop version of a retro called Roses and Thorns, where we discuss things that worked for us, roses, and things that didn't go well, thorns. So let's get started with roses. We completed the campaign. This is the first time I've ever done it. Even groups with great chemistry don't finish because life gets in the way. So the group finishing our story in a big in-game style battle felt great. I also turned random people onto the internet into friends. We still keep in touch. I send them Christmas cards every year. But what didn't go well? We eventually started a new campaign, but it wasn't the same. We were the same people, plus someone new, but in different roles. The quirky player became the brooding one, the jokester became the straight man, and the glue person became a silent loner. We weren't clicking like we used to, and weren't having as much fun. We were also experiencing burnout. We had been playing non-stop for 2 years, and we're running out of creative juices. We tried to keep things fresh by taking breaks and playing other games, but we finally decided to end the campaign after Luck got a new job, and I was expecting my daughter on the way. It still is one of the most fun things I've ever done, and I've been very proud to be part of this party. I want to say thank you to Josh, John, Luck, and especially Lucy who did all the art for this. Thank you for your time and have fun gaming.